start on the other end, start with you, Nancy, and tell us a bit about what you do and what kinds of films work in terms of this idea of translation.
All right. Sitegeist Films is what you would call a full-service distribution company. We distribute films theatrically. We have an educational component. We distribute films on DVD still. We do Blu-rays. We have an educational distribution, and we have been in business for now 25 years, which actually in distribution years is probably 1,000, because there are so many companies that have disappeared. We have a catalog. I think we've done anywhere between 150 and 200 films. However, our catalog at this moment is probably about 170 films. We don't sell films internationally. We are U.S. based almost primarily. Once in a while we have North American rights. So I'm a little bit of the weasel at the garden party on this panel. However, we've been very successful with our documentaries, with our U.S. documentaries. And I do have an idea of how documentaries work in the United States. And we also have foreign language documentaries that have worked very well in the U.S.
Hi, so Andy from Dog Wolf. And so I'll follow on that. But so in the UK, we're full service, so all rights. And our speciality is theatrical documentary. So things like Restrepo or Bill Cunningham we were talking about a bit, and getting those in theatres, and then all of the rights after that, so DVD, etc. And we've been doing that for almost 10 years. And then in the last 2 years, we've set up this international arm. So we are now selling documentaries internationally. And again, where our focus is, a bit like the UK arm, is on that theatrical. So our target is to try and to work out whether we fell into it accidentally, or people were asking us partly as well could you sell Germany for us, or who do you know in Germany type of thing. So after a while you start to see a demand. So that's why we started to do it a couple of years ago, and it's gone very well. But it is that sort of trying to find, because some people are doing it very well, especially in TV space. So it's just trying to find that theatrical docs and just give them, I don't know, I was going to say a little more love. That's not quite the right phrase, but just trying to handle them and try and get them to land, like especially US docs landing in the rest of the world, so they can reach the right audience. And that's been our focus.
So, my name is Catherine Leclerc from Cat and Dogs. And we are representing documentaries from all over the world, and we are selling them worldwide. And we do have a few American documentaries that are selling quite well, and many documentaries from Asia and from the rest of the world. So, do you want to know?
Actually, I'm going to ask you first. I'm going to ask you, Kat, to say what you see as the difference between a distributor and a sales agent, because I think that people get really confused between the two. And you're very clearly a sales agent.
I'm a sales agent, but I think it's because we are calling also sales agent distributor, so I think the confusion is there. I'm a sales agent, meaning that I'm not releasing films theatrically. I will sell those rights to a theatrical distributor. So I'm selling my documentaries to Dog Wolf, and I will sell my documentaries to Nancy and to Debbie, but I will not release them. Is that clear?
Yeah, but you do work with broadcasters all over the world, and I think that also is part of the confusion.
Yeah, when a film has no theatrical potential, then I will go straight to television. So then I will sell them to broadcasters all over the world. So to Iceland, Britain, wherever, in the States here. And that's what we are doing.
And can you talk about some of the films, each of you talk about some of the films that have done well for those of you who are outside the US, American films that have done well internationally, why you think they've done well. And Nancy, maybe films that you have the other way around, films from outside the US that have done well here. And in that way, talk a little bit about the difference in the markets. Is there a difference? Maybe not.
Yeah, no, so what works well? So we've just done Blackfish. So that's just, you know.
Can you just give us the log line for Blackfish for those who may not know it?
So, dog line. You know, friend, killer, were essentially about, you know, it's not a good idea to keep killer whales in captivity. But again, it just looks at the, you know, that as an issue, but it just digs into it in a very nice way. And then, yeah, well, now it's a very big film. CNN are going to screen it in the US. The box office is like 2 million or 2 million plus now, I think. But I mean, it's an important issue, so it's that sort of, you know, important theme. Chasing Ice is another one.
Sorry, what was that?
Chasing Ice.
Chasing Ice.
So, you know, global warming. And then the other two types of things we find well are strong narratives, so a bit, you know, what you call it, truer than fiction. So Queen of Versailles would be a great example of that one. And then portraits. So again, we talked about Bill Cunningham, but films about, you know, really interesting people. And I think those are the three that we find as themes tend to cross over and work internationally. Without, I always hate that phrase of too American, for example, but it starts to appeal to a global audience.
What does that mean? I hear that all the time. It's too American. What does that mean?
That's what the TV buyers always tell me when they say no. But I guess the good examples always are like political movies. So actually Nixon crosses over, but you know, Sarah Palin, for example, it's just really hard to get a British audience or a European audience especially into a cinema to watch, you know, detail of an American audience. And also, I'm trying to think actually, so After Tiller could be curious one.
After Tiller.
Yeah, with abortion, because like here it's a huge issue, but not everywhere in the world is a big issue.
Do you have the rights to After Tiller?
We don't actually.
You don't? Just wondering. Before we move on, I'm going to go and ask the same thing to you, Kat. I just wanted to know, Andy, if you could talk a little bit about why Dogwoof decided, after being a distributor in the UK, to start taking on world rights. Yeah.
So, yeah, again, actually, I think part of it is just demand, where you just see some films not picked up, especially for international, because there's some really good films out there. So actually, one of the first we did was a film called Girl Model, and also Marina Abramovic. The artist is not present. So they're both very strong films, and you watch them, they're at the festivals, and you're just trying to work out why no one else is taking that risk. And there's reasons why, but we just feel, well, we were buying it for the UK anyway, for theatrical. So for us, and we kept doing that again and again, but eventually we just thought, well, actually, sort of step into that problem a bit. I mean, the idea was never to buy like 50 films and build up like a massive big catalogue, but to sort of cherry pick these sort of special films that sometimes are falling in the gaps. Again, it's that sort of theatrical theme. It's hard to define, but because if it's straight for TV and TV wants to buy it, it's almost like, people want to buy that film, and it's quite easy. But the other ones where you need to build a campaign and push it. So Blackfish is a great example, actually. It just needs more effort. So it's almost like, fulfilling a need rather than what we wanted to do, because the filmmakers were almost asking us to do it. And then when we did do it, we took a long time to think about it, it worked really well. So Marina Abramovic played at the Berlin Film Festival. It started to create a really big buzz. It did well at the box office everywhere, and then TV starts buying it, and suddenly, is it luck or judgment? But you do well, so then you repeat it, and it's so after that, you get hooked on it, and it was good.
We're going to talk about festivals in a minute, but Kat, would you talk about some of the films that have done well for you? Maybe some of them that have surprised you.
American films?
Yeah.
There are some films who did really well, like Dios by Laura Poitras, Which Way Home by Rebecca Camisa.
Which Way Home by Rebecca Camisa. Yeah. Which is a film about, you were speaking a little bit close to the
sorry.
mic, and with your wonderful French accent, it was hard to understand. Which is a film, Rebecca Camisa's film is about the border between the U.S. and Mexico. The Oath, of course, is a film about the Middle East. Can you think of other films that are about Americans?
I have one, because the Americans that I have, about Americans, yes, we do have two, The Woodmans and William Burroughs, they both did quite well for art slots, and there are not that many art slots, but William Burroughs was released theatrically in different countries, so that one did really well. The Woodmans wasn't released theatrically, I don't know why, because I love the film, but it went straight to television. But I have one documentary that is about American people, but it's made by a French director, Jean-Xavier Lestrade. I'm sure you all have seen that. It's The Staircase, the series, and then the number 2, and that was about the American. That's my most American.
By a French? And if you had to think about kind of what characterizes films that do translate, could you come up with a couple of characteristics?
But this is a bit, it's common. It would be, I would say the same for Korean film, for Chinese film, for American film. It should be a good film. And about a strong story, character-driven, things like that. So it's not a question, it shouldn't be too American, too Swiss, too French, because that's for local audience. And it's hard to say when I see films, it can be like Capturing the Freedmans. When I was at Tutissimo, we were selling that everywhere. This is typically American, but about a very American family. But it could, everybody can relate to that story.
I always tell filmmakers that Europeans in particular want to see the dark side of America. Do you think that's true?
Do you have another side?
Bravo! There's your answer.
No, we don't do, you know, who is interested in people that love each other, that are nice to each other, that have kids? Nobody.
Okay, so before we were saying that sex sells, so now the dark
Sex
side,
sells.
the dark side sells. Portraits sell, animals, and the environment.
So,
I think we
No,
covered.
environment is not that easy.
No, it's not.
I
that
do
easy.
have great films. I had the winner of Sundance this year, the Cambodian film, and I have quite a few. I have Semper Fi, another, and this is hard to sell.
Yeah,
Because we don't care in a way.
because the world doesn't care about the environment. It's the dark side. I'll go over to Nancy. So can you give us the reverse side? What are the films that are here that translate from overseas in terms of documentary?
Well, I could use a few examples, and unusual ones actually. For example, Integrate Silence. That was a, I believe it was 3-hour film made by a man who went into a Carthusian monastery and stayed there for over a year, filming the monks. It was totally silent, and it was a beautiful, beautiful movie, and it was sold all over the world, and we did extremely well with it. I mean, I think the film made $1 million in the box office and sold probably 40 or 50,000, if not more, DVDs. I think that film, really hit people. There is obviously like a very big spiritual community in the United States, and we were able to sell it in a number of different ways, which to me is always like the best possible way of selling a documentary. You have an audience, or you have several audiences, or you have several grassroots ways of putting a documentary over in the US. This can be true for Bill Cunningham, New York. It can be true for that. It can be true for our new film about the Galapagos. I mean, you really find 5 different areas, let's say, where the film can be marketed. And then you really market the hell out of that film in those areas. And really, I find that if the film has a grassroots audience, it almost always does extremely well.
Can you think of, great, I think that's very, very helpful. Can you give us a couple of other examples?
Trying to. we have We've had really quite a lot of film. I mean, Trouble the Water was also like that. You know, that did extremely well because it really, I mean, it was great because it had such an incredible story, and story was very important. But also, there were a lot of grassroots areas that it got into. You know, it was about Katrina, and so, you know, even though it's true that I guess environment is not that sexy, just the idea of, you know, the African American audience. You know, we had activists working on that film. You know, people love New Orleans, so we really talked about New Orleans. I mean, there were a number of audiences for that movie, and also, you know, we have some English language films, for example, something like Up the Yangtze, which did extremely well for us. That was a Canadian film, and we found that Up the Yangtze could be marketed to a lot of different audiences, and the biggest audience that it was marketed to were people who took Yangtze cruises. And this is not a regular documentary audience. These are people who have money. They live in places that are not necessarily, you know, major cities. They're, you know, I mean, it can be something like Santa Barbara, you know, where people have money and they've gone on cruises. And people really wanted to see, although it had a very sad story, and it was really, you know, people who were very interested in China and the politics there and what's going on. They wanted to see their lives reflected in those cruises. So it is really, it's very unpredictable, I would say.
Well, let me just ask each of you to talk about how filmmakers can get their films taken on by a sales agent. Do you want them to contact you? Do you need to see the films at a film festival? Do you suggest that they put their films into markets? Yeah, all of you, each of you. You want to start?
We are taking films at any stage. I can give you some example, like for Last Train Home. I think I saw 5 minutes of the film and I said I'm interested in. So I did the same with Planet of Snail. And so I was in at the beginning of the film.
Did you do any pre-sales on that film? And do you do pre-sales?
No, because the producers, they were good producers. They could do that work by themselves, you know. So, and that's what I like. I think they are producers, that's their work. But I can help them, say you should talk to that one, but why would you be a
But you were
producer?
attached to the project throughout production. Throughout production. You saw 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah, and then I said I'm interested, I will follow up, and then we talked about the festival launches and things like that.
So you worked with the filmmakers,
Yeah.
strategizing their
No,
festival
with the producer.
launch. With the producer.
We work more with the producers than with the director. And I can give another example, like Five Broken Cameras. That film I saw, it was completed, but I was made for television at the beginning. So the producer didn't know anything about festivals, theatrical releases, and they wanted just to sell television, the 1 hour version. And then I came in and I said, this is an amazing film, you should do something else. And they said, no, I want money. I said, okay, here you have. And I said, how much do you need? And I signed a check and I said, okay, now I'm working on the film. So we went to all the festivals and in the end it was nominated. So I was right.
That's great. And she's never right.
No, they are good and bad examples.
No, that's great. And it's good to know. I think a lot of filmmakers here don't realize how much sales agents particularly, and so many of the sales agents are based in Europe, which I find really fascinating. But of course it's because there's so much of a stronger broadcasting community for documentaries in Europe. I mean,
yeah, but there is also another thing. In Europe, it's not as big as the States. Many Americans think that there are only Americans.
there are only Americans in the world?
Yeah, they don't think that there are other. And
Other
in
territories.
Europe, I'm from Belgium. Of course, Belgium is so small. We go in everywhere. We're used to travel everywhere, but you are not.
No, it's
Most
true,
the people,
of course.
so, yeah.
I mean, there's less than 10% of Americans have passports, something absolutely insane like that. No, but I think that's why it's really important for the people here to understand how sales agents do get involved with films, some sales agents during production, and really work with filmmakers to help launch their films.
Yeah.
Andy?
No, so trying to work that both ways. So yeah, the simple answer is, come to us as soon as you can, whenever you're ready. Yeah, yeah. But you work it backwards, because, and you made a good point as well, because a lot of times you'll have a good network in the US, so as you say, it could be sort of or the funding. So HBO could be on board, or it gets complicated, especially in North America. But so it's always good, because you also have that dream, Sundance, Tribeca, South by Southwest, Toronto. So the dream is, I'm going to get in there, and then I'm going to be very rich. And of course, for many films, that doesn't happen. And then if you're late at that point to go and chase sales agents, it's a very tricky conversation. So actually starting that conversation much sooner, it just helps everything, because you can start, you can start to line it up, and there's the politics of festivals. If you play this one, you can't submit to, so the premiere, the A-list festivals. Also, how the rest of the world deals with it. So festivals like Cannes in France and Venice in Italy, and some of the Asian festivals. Again, how you can leverage those to the best ability, and clearly that's where sales agents can offer a lot of good advice and good experience. And inherently filmmakers can be good, but the skill is making the film, but also just from a time point of view, building that network up is so hard.
I would like to add something regarding the festivals. I often receive emails from producers and directors from the States and say, I made a good film. They went to 10 or 20 festivals in the US, and now we are thinking about the rest of the world. Too late, sorry. We have to do that on the same time. So when your film is completed, you come and see sales agents to talk to them, and then you can do whatever you want in the States, but please don't wait for a year or two. It's too late. Yeah, there are thousands of documentaries in the world. Buyers won't take a film that is from 2012 anymore. It's too old. So don't waste time.
Nancy, do you want to talk a little bit about, what was the question that I was asking? About how people can approach you and when's the right time. Is it different because you're a distributor and not a sales agent?
Well, it is. I can just, tell a bit of a story. We used to look, for our first while, we would see everything coming over the transom, absolutely everything. We'd look at things. And we're 25 years old, so after 10 years, when we hadn't seen even one film that we would distribute, my business partner and I said, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to allow festivals to curate films for us, and we will look at films at festivals. And then if a sales agent, who we trust, or somebody else, who we know or trust, somebody who has been, I guess, to other film festivals that we haven't been to, will look at movies. So we do end up seeing lots and lots of movies per year, but we really do not, unless it's really so highly recommended by somebody else, we really do not look at them out of a film festival context. I can also say that the film festival context really has to be a major film festival, because I'm with Catherine, sorry. Okay. I believe that you can't do lots and lots of festivals and come to a distributor and say, okay, I've done 15 U.S. film festivals and it's done great and everyone's loved it and I've gotten lots of awards and now distribute it. You can do maybe 1 or 2 festivals and then that's great. Your distributor will take over from there and they'll really do strategic planning on festivals, but that's really the only way that we'll be able to go effectively.
So I'm just curious about how all of you feel about hybrid distribution and about splitting rights. You both called yourself full-service distributors. Women Make Movies does the same, but all we hear about lately is hybrid distribution and do-it-yourself. And I'm just curious if you can, and how that affects you, Kat.
I'm not interested in that. No, because I think you cannot do that, because you do the festivals, you do theatrical distribution, and then what? Somebody else would do the DVD, or how do you see that? And we invest in the promotion, in selling documentaries, so why would we do the difficult part and then television would be done by somebody else? I don't understand that.
Talk to Peter Broderick and John Reeves.
Yeah, but he's the one who also sending people that have done I don't know how many festivals, and they are very proud that they have done 50 festivals. Okay, do the rest.
Take that.
I do have something
Andy,
to say about
Nancy,
that.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll let you go next. But I do feel that there are so many films out in the market that I guess that there is some way to do hybrid distribution. Now, it's not, and we're talking about distribution. I mean, I'm really not sure about the level of, at which a film goes to a sales agent. But when there are a few films, and they're really pretty few and far between, and usually they do hire a theatrical booker, and usually they do go with somebody who's doing both DVD and ED. So it isn't a completely, it isn't completely divided. But listen, if it's a film that just absolutely cannot get distribution, yet it's a very, very, people feel like it's a very, very worthwhile film, or it's won, major awards, or it's even one, I mean, I know that there are even, big Sundance Award winners who haven't been able to get distribution. I think hybrid distribution is okay. Just know that you are going to have to learn a lot of new skill sets. You're probably going to have to spend quite a lot of money, and you're going to have to spend a year of your life really devoted to doing this. It's a major investment no matter what. So although I would rather somebody, come for a full service distribution, we really don't take that many films per year. And, there are a lot of new distributors, but we don't know how long those distributors are going to be around. So I think that, there's a possible, there's room for some sort of hybrid distribution, but I still prefer the old way.
Can I just take off on that, Andy, if you don't mind, if I just switch it slightly? I'm also wondering about how many pre-sales is too many pre-sales for a documentary that you're looking to get a sales agent for. So filmmakers that I know are sending their films off to Channel 4 and to Arte, and they're going to the ITFA forum looking for pre-sales. So, and I, of course, know that there's a limited number of really big television sales worldwide. So how much is too much? Let's let Andy.
I mean,
Sorry.
Or maybe
it's a
it
balance,
doesn't
isn't
matter.
No, it does matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's risk and reward. And obviously, we're putting up our time and our money. So clearly, and you do see it sometimes where there's a great film, and they say, by the way, as you say, because the bigger broadcasters, so like BBC, Channel 4, Arte, in the big countries like France, Germany, UK, US, it's not too hard to do that. But if you sold those territories, and if you have, well done, and you get the money for that, but then it's very hard to then expect, us to put up a lot of money and a lot of time, because also that, actually it's still as much time, if not more time and effort you have to put in, but obviously that reward is going to get less. We have done it. We've been doing this for 2 years, so part of the time you sort of will pick up some of those deals. But when you do it, you do see how hard it is. And the flip side is that when you do get, a good clean slate, and it hasn't been at 150 festivals, the difference, because when you're showing it to people, it's fresh, you position it, and they're interested. They put real money on the table. And there's another factor there as well, because sometimes, we can get a better deal as well than what you think. How do you know what is a good deal from the BBC for UK TV?
Great. I think I'll open it up to questions so that we have lots of time. I think we want you to go over here to the mic and ask your questions. And if nobody has any questions, we can go home. No. No, I think you do need to go over and speak into the mic. Sorry, this is being recorded.
Yeah.
It's
Actually,
one of those.
I'll give one example while we wait for that quickly. So, we're doing 112 weddings, and the BBC is helping to finance that. And actually, we so believe in the film. Actually, we have come on board, and that, great talent behind it, great story with weddings, it's global. So that's something we really, we're behind. And so, like I say, we can work with that. It's just the more territories that start to disappear, it just gets tougher.
Sure.
There's a lot of talk about the importance of, we've even seen in the previous speech from a distributor, the importance of self-distribution and online distribution and all of that. And I'm hoping that you can just speak a little bit about the effect it has on your willingness to take on a film if that film is already released online, if you can already buy it online, or if it's streaming.
So the challenge you have, and it's not actually what my decision would be. So if it's online already and you send it to a TV channel, the first thing they will say is, this is already online. So why am I going to pay a big amount of money for my broadcast, which I want to be a premiere? Where it starts to get interesting is people like Netflix in the market now who are offering real money for online rights. So there's a bit of maybe it's worth your while, but just putting it online, you're hoping that revenue comes in, like off iTunes or whatever channel, but it is going to really scare those broadcasters. Yeah, I mean, if it turns into a great hit, but that's a rarity, great. And obviously, it's in your interest if you can't get access to a market, but it is tough for TV.
So just to clarify, I'm kind of curious. If Netflix offers you, as you just said, big money, it basically would wipe out most distribution. What kind of big money?
Well, Netflix would also want to screen it, say, within 6 months, so you've got a ticking clock then to sell it and for people to release it. It would be really, really hard. I mean, yeah.
So what kind of money would be worth it?
Well, for me, or for the filmmaker?
For you or for the filmmaker?
For the filmmaker,
I'm
it's
kind of curious.
what's their objective? Because is it about getting rich? Is it about funding your next project? Is it about breaking even and getting my money back? It might be the case where you think, actually, and then you can move on. So, or the self-distribution, where you really, that's more about effort than money. So, I think it depends on who the filmmaker is and their circumstances.
Hi.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Kai. I just graduated from New York Film Academy School. And I went back to China and filming my own film. And the film is about a middle-aged couple left 3 kids in the village and sell tomatoes in Beijing for over 10 years. So if I just met you guys in the film festival, what do you think of this film? As a distributor perspective. Yeah.
We really have to see the film to tell you, because it's not only a logline or a synopsis. I don't know how you shot, so we need to see a film before saying something.
The film is a short film. It's 20 minutes. It's a sort of,
Then I'm not the right person, that's for sure. I don't do short.
I think these are primarily distributors that handle feature-length films, so you may not be talking to the right audience, but as somebody who does handle short films, we also need to see the film. I think everybody needs to see the film. It's almost impossible to say that it has potential or not.
Oh, thank you.
Hi. I'm entering post-production on my first feature doc and learning. I'm wrapping my head around all of the stuff that comes with the end of making the film, etc. And I don't know very much about sales agents. And my biggest question is, for somebody who's just starting out, like, how do you even find the right sales agent? Where do you begin to look? I mean, I don't even, it's just like, this might be too big of a question, but I just it's the first time really even thinking about trying to find somebody like that. And I'm just wondering if there's strategies, how do you find the right person that's not just going to waste your time and your money?
You can only go with these two things.
I think finding a sales agent is it's like a wedding. So first, you should do your homework. You should go to their website, see what kind of documentary they are representing. If your film could be in that catalog, belong to that catalog first. Then you should talk to the producers that are in that catalog to see if those people are honest, what kind of work do they do, and things like that. And and that's your work. And then you should meet that person, and if you like that person, you talk, you look to the contract, you read the terms, do you agree with the terms, and so on and so on. But you have to do your homework.
And once you're
And
married,
maybe we don't want to work with you either, so that's,
yeah, and that's the honeymoon period, because then there's 3 years, 10 years after that. So, yeah, hopefully there is that relationship. But yeah, my tip would be to talk to other filmmakers and get that word of mouth recommendation, and then also the markets, and here as well. So you've got so that way you can usually at the round tables meet a lot of the sales agents.
And I'll just say, I completely agree with them. It's the advice I always give. Don't ask the distributor or the sales agent who they should be talking to. Look in the catalog and see what films are the most similar to yours, because they might have done brilliantly with a film that has absolutely nothing to do with yours in terms of the length, in terms of the number of festivals, the subject matter. Okay. And if they won't give you contact information for those filmmakers, that also tells you something about them.
As a filmmaker of color that does a lot of films that are centered on my particular community, I think the perception in the international marketplace is that, at least what we get in terms of narrative, is that there is not an international audience for films that are about and by people of color in America. Would you say that that is true in the international landscape? That could just be a perception, and specifically, is that true for documentary?
Great question. Who wants to take it on?
I'll be brave. For the UK, we did The Interrupters as a UK distributor, and that was tough. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a hard one to call, but actually, I don't think it's just documentary where it's a challenge. Comedy, fiction, and it is interesting. I mean, it's going to change, but yeah, I'm going to sort of try and think about why that is. So cause and effect, but. It's definitely harder for people to take that risk on a film. I'm not quite sure why, and it's unfair because there's some amazing films. But The Interrupters really worked for us, though, because other people didn't. They pulled away from it, but we knew it was a great film. It was long, but it worked. And as soon as people saw it, and then it just kept going and going and going, and it was great. And I think we just need more people to have more faith, more belief, and back it, and then it'll all be good.
I think we have time. Oh, we have time for a couple more. So anybody from this side? Yeah?
If nobody else has any questions. At the Thessaloniki Film Festival, I got a list of 50 sales agents, 50 European sales agents. And I think these lists are passed around to all sorts of people. And I've been kind of resisting mass emailing everyone because I feel like there has to be a better way for me to get in touch with people I've never met before and I don't have direct contact with, than sending an email with 3 synopses of my 3 films and trailers. Or is that the best way to do it? What would you advise?
What we do, we receive a lot of emails from filmmakers or producers that we don't know, and what I do, they send me a link or whatever, and if they send me a link about music documentaries, I'm definitely not the right person. But if there is something that that looks interesting, we can also Skype, we can talk, and I will first watch it and then say, this is not for me. So.
I'll just also say, sorry, I'll jump in and say, I think if you're sending 3 films, that may not be the right strategy.
I've actually been told that that sales agents and commissioning editors would rather see more options at once because it doesn't waste their time.
First of all, commissioning editors and sales agents are 2 totally different bodies looking for different things. So let's stay to the sales agents. In terms of distributors or sales agents, they're interested in a film the film that you have that you think is going to be perfect for them, and that you've done a little bit of your homework, as Kat said before, to figure out that this is a good fit for us. I mean, I have filmmakers chasing me, just happened to me this week. This filmmaker corners me every time I tell her, this subject isn't right. We distribute films that are from a woman's perspective, by women, about women, and it's a film that's not about women. And that's a waste of her time, and it's a waste of my time. And it happens constantly.
Yeah, and if you're sending 3 films, actually that 3rd film could be perfect for you. But when you watch the first 2 and it's about guys boxing, there's a good chance you're not going to click on that 3rd link. So exactly that research, and even just change that first line to say, yeah, I'm emailing you because this film's perfect for you, is a big difference then. Dear sir, here's 3 links, please click.
Right.
Well, actually, that's all the time that we have. Thank you all so much, but thank you to our panelists.